We are getting a lot of mixed messages from the government on this, including the Prime Minister, who this morning said that he would not make misogyny a hate crime. And in this interview, said the word confident, the public not being confident, regaining confidence, but shied away from saying ashamed of, the police's performance and the conviction rate. So I think it doesn't create a lot of trust for this government's commitment to this really important issue, because we have so much emphasis, even in Priti Patel's speech, about Wayne Couzens and Sarah Everard's case, without acknowledging that none of this is new. We've had HMI inspectorate reports from the government's own, policies looking at it. We've had violence against women policies and targets, and then the government's own rape review. And none of those things have led to an improvement. The UK has one of the lowest rape conviction rates in the world, especially in the developed world, and of countries, the same GDP level as the UK. And I think that it's shocking that when South Africa can have a 7% rape conviction rate and India can have almost 20%, the UK still cannot achieve 3%. So, and the other thing that I found from that interview, which was really important, is that we do hear an acknowledgement, though, from the Prime Minister and also from Priti Patel, that they have identified that it is a systemic issue. Times are long, there's not enough resources, and it's too complex, and people don't trust that their complaints are going to be, heard, and that they're going to get the empathetic treatment that they deserve as victims and survivors of violence.
Hera, help them out. You get it. It seems the political will is there if we take them at face value. You've got not just the Prime Minister, but you've got the Justice Secretary and the Home Secretary today saying that violence against women, tackling violence against women and girls is their #1 priority. What's holding them back? Why does the Prime Minister, for example, today seem so downcast when it comes to talking about progress and getting prosecution rates up and achieving targets that they themselves set earlier this summer?
It feels like there's, like always, the government is really keen on coming up with policies and statements that focus on the short term. And because violence against women is something that, it needs a whole system to work together and radical change to happen for us to come, anywhere close to reducing the levels of abuse that women face. There is a lack of recognition of that. So, for example, we know that there's almost one woman every week reports a police officer for sexual assault or domestic abuse. It's not new. We've heard from police officers many times, female police officers, that say they don't feel confident when they go to have complaints against their male counterparts, that those complaints are going to be investigated. More than 600 police officers have had complaints of, gender-based violence against them. And in the last 10 years, so none of this is new. What we need is radical change in the way police are vetted. They're trained. They get less than half a day's training on trauma and psychology at the moment. And more robust processes when you have complaints coming up against officers, that those are investigated, whether they're from the inside or outside. And more importantly, the police's databases don't match at the moment. They don't link up. So if you have an allegation, a charge in one police station, there's a very good chance, if you are working in another police station or you are a perpetrator who's been brought into the station at another place, that will not get caught up. And that just feels like it's a thing that is actually in the short term can be fixed, but isn't done. And then the more complex things require things like education on consent in schools. So we stop the problem before it becomes a big offense. And having clear legislation around misogyny being a hate crime would go a long way. And this was a very clear policy decision that could have been made and could have been announced. It would have been a big success in the government listening to victims and survivors and campaigners, but they haven't done that. So, it leaves us in this uncertain position where they say it's a really high priority, but they can't meet their own targets and they can't follow their own strategies. And we get mixed messages about where those resources are going. The government has control of the public purse. They have, the police and the policies and the internal culture. Again, there have been reports about that. So why hasn't change happened until now? And what's different about this particular time?
Hera, It's been quite the couple of weeks. The murder of Sabina Nessa and Sarah Everard, the conviction of her murderer, has put this issue of violence against women and girls back in the spotlight, and we need to keep it there. Can we take any positivity out of this moment? I understand that your organisation has had a lot of victims come forward wanting to tell their story so they can keep this momentum going. And you've also had a lot of men come forward, male allies, because of course the onus is always on women to deal with this problem, but actually it's men who are creating this problem and they need to address it.
Absolutely. This violence against women is a male problem. It is, women take a lot of responsibility for looking after themselves and, making plans about the littlest of things. What am I wearing? Who am I going to see? What time of the day it is? What route am I going to take?
What should I do if I'm approached by a lone police officer?
Exactly. So these unhelpful tips from the police, as if we've not been through all of that already in our head, doesn't really help. What I've been really enthused by is the fact that men are asking, what can they do? And the thing that everyone can do, especially men, is educate themselves. Listen to the women in your life. Listen to, campaigners, academics, researchers, survivors that are sharing their stories. Believe them, and then take actions around them. When is the last time you spoke to your son, your brother, your friends about consent, about the way, are they having any problems in their relationships? And if so, have you tried talking to them about that? How do they react to stress? Have you interrupted a rape joke before? Have you tried to take these small interventions? Have you asked about equal pay in your workplace? Have you, rather than focusing on things that people often do, like let's give women rape alarms or don't follow women at night. You should not follow anyone closely at night, irrespective of their gender. But what you really can do is have those conversations in the places that you have power, your WhatsApp chats, your Facebook groups, your gym, your friends, your workplace, your family. So those are the conversations that men are having now. And that gives me so much hope for a more equal future.